expressed on this program are not necessarily those of WTJS, its board, staff, or underwriters.
Good day. You are listening to Ability Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Amelia Headly Lamont of the Disability Rights Center of the Virgin Islands. And today we are joined by a very active, invigorating, collaborating person by the name of Troy D. Chabert-Schuster, who is the State Director for AARP Virgin Islands. Good day, Troy Schuster.
Good day, Amelia. Thanks so much for having me on the show. It's a great pleasure.
Well, thank you for agreeing to join us today. This is, oh my goodness, the work that AARP does is so majestic here in the territory. So for those who may not still be aware of what the work that AARP is doing, can you fill us in on what your work has involved in the Virgin Islands?
Yes, absolutely. So in general, AARP is a social mission organization. We are the nation's largest nonprofit organization, and we are nonpartisan. So being nonpartisan means that we don't endorse any political party nor any political candidate. Once somebody has been elected to a particular office, we work with that person as we advocate, and we can certainly thank that person for all the work that they do and their responsiveness to AARP, but we don't endorse any candidate who's running for office. So at AARP, the heart and soul of our work is, number one, advocacy, and number two, community outreach. And all of that is so that we can enable people to choose how they live as they age. The acronym AARP stands for American Association of Retired People, but we have sort of moved away from retired because when do people retire these days? And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in the show. Mm-hmm. But we find that people don't retire at the typical age or the older perceived age of 50 or 55. People are working into the 60s, 70s. I remember my father, Lowell Schuster, he worked up until the age of 84 in his own business, until just months before he died. And he loved going to work every day and running his water company and so forth. So again, it's not about retired people, but it's about empowering people who are over the age of 50 to choose how they live as they age. And so we do a lot of advocacy everywhere from Capitol Hill to every state across the nation, the territories we serve, which are Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. And in many states, there's also what we call local advocacy taking place on the municipal or the county level. And all of our community outreach is educational. Some of it is fun, as we say at AARP, fun with purpose, right. So that people are having fun, but they're learning something while having fun, again, to help them to choose how to live as they age. What AARP is not, and this is what I really, really want our listening audience to understand, AARP is not an insurance company. Okay. A lot of people think we're an insurance company. A lot of people come to us with questions about insurance, and we cannot answer those questions. There are AARP branded insurance products on the market, but they're not sold by AARP. So again, with social mission, advocacy, and also community outreach. That's what AARP is.
Well, tell us a little bit about, it's a real advantage not to align yourself with any particular political candidate or party. That is worth its weight in gold, quite honestly. Yes. Tell us about some of the things that you're planning, AARP is planning for the legislative priorities. What are some things that you see on the horizon?
Yeah, so right now we have a couple of very interesting things on the horizon. Number one is a bill on anti-ageism, right? Because ageism is a big hindrance to older people living as they choose to live. You know, people thinking, well, because you've reached this age, you can't do this or you can't do that. And interestingly enough, a gentleman who is in his 60s, I think he's 66 or 67 years old, he was able to acquire taxi medallion here on St. Croix. Okay. But then after he was able to buy the taxi medallion, he couldn't get a license to drive a taxi because he is over the age of 65, and they don't grant any new licenses to anybody over the age of 65.
Wow.
However, they have people who have had taxi licenses for some time who are driving into their 70s and even close to 80 years of age. But I was struck because, I mean, here it is, this guy who approached me, very able-bodied. He rides his bicycle all over Frederick Town, all over the island. He's one of these bikers, right, on these fancy road bikes. He has a sharp mind, again, very strong physically, and he can't get a license to drive a taxi. So he can't even use this medallion that he invested in.
Wow.
So we now have this bill going through to change all of that. And all that will be required once this becomes law is a physical exam from a physician here in the Virgin Islands saying that, yes, this person is able to drive a taxi. And then they could go ahead and get a new taxi license even after the age of 65.
Wow.
So we're really, really excited about that. And that's one of our big works against ageism. Another big piece we have coming through is anti-elder abuse. All right. There's been a lot of work in the Virgin Islands with regard to anti-elder financial abuse or protecting older people from financial abuse. But there are many other forms of abuse, right?
Right.
Not only is there financial abuse, but there's physical abuse. The flip side of physical abuse is neglect. There's emotional abuse. There's sexual abuse of older people.
Right.
And so in this very comprehensive bill, we are addressing all of those different types of abuse and really increasing the penalties. And one of the things that we're looking at is making neglect a felony, right? Because there are a lot of people here who have, again, able-bodied offspring who can certainly help them, but they're totally neglected, abandoned. Some of them are abandoned in the hospital.
Right.
We hear it all the time in the news of all of the quote unquote boarders in the hospitals, but those are not simply boarders. Those are people who were abandoned by their family when they were being discharged and they were called to pick up their mother or their father or their grandparent. They decided they weren't going to come.
Wow.
And they just left them there in the hospital.
Yeah.
And so they're abandoned and they're neglected. And, there are many states in the Federation of States where neglect and abandonment is a felony. And so we're trying to make it a felony here, as well as other more stringent penalties to try to end elder abuse in all of its forms.
Let me ask you
Another
this.
really, yes.
If I may interject real quick. If somebody wants to assist or participate in these, who can, an individual can lobby, right? Not AARP. Well, maybe AARP can. How can they go about doing that? Who do they need to get in touch with?
Yes. Oh, we'd love to have the public involved. So the best person to contact would be Pamela Toussaint. She is my employee on St. Thomas.
Okay.
I'm the state director, but she's the associate state director of advocacy and community outreach. Community outreach on St. Thomas, St. John, but advocacy for the territory.
Okay.
So again, Pamela Toussaint. Her last name is spelled Tousssaint.
Okay.
The best way to contact her is by email, and that's simply P as in Pamela, P Toussaint. So again, PTOUSSAINT at AARP.org.
Okay.
And then she can also get you in our database to receive our advocacy emails, because we send out advocacy emails calling people to action. People can become an advocacy volunteer, working with Pamela on these issues, lobbying our senators, lobbying our governor, attending hearings and so forth. So there are many, many opportunities for people who want to get involved in our advocacy to do so.
Perfect.
And we'd love to have people get involved.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Now, you were going to say something else. I'm sorry. I just wanted to capture that moment.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I can talk about AARP all day long. As I say, I can talk about AARP in my sleep because I live it, I breathe it. I love the work. It's so impactful, and it's so wonderful for me to be a Virgin Islander and to live here on my home island of St. Croix, and working for a great company like AARP and making an impact here for the people I love, the people of the Virgin Islands. as well as for myself for the future, right? Because we're
Right.
all getting older. I'm
Right.
already in my 50s and we're all getting older.
Right.
Time doesn't move differently for any one of us.
Nope.
Yeah. So another thing I was going to talk about is about our guardianship reform. We've done a lot of work on probate reform
Mm-hmm.
to help people to keep properties out of probate,
Mm-hmm.
which is a big issue here in the Virgin Islands, but also a lot of work on guardianship reform.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've been working along with the Uniform Law Commission
Mm-hmm.
of the United States
Okay.
to bring these uniform acts of the Uniform Law Commission here to the Virgin Islands. And a big one that we're working on now for guardianship is it's called UGCOPA. That's the acronym,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the Uniform Guardianship, Conservatorship, and Protective Proceedings Jurisdiction Act.
Mm.
That's a long title. It's a
Yeah.
big bill.
Okay.
It's close to 300 pages.
Okay.
And that fully reforms guardianship and provides for different forms, different types of guardianship rather than the all-encompassing guardianship that exists now, where when you become a guardian, you're a guardian fully, and the protected individual really has no more rights, and it's all on the guardian's shoulders.
Mm.
Whereas this provides, I don't want to get into too many details because it can get very detailed, and you could attest to this, Amelia,
Yeah.
being an attorney yourself.
Right. Right.
But it provides for less restrictive forms of guardianship in the case like where the protected individual still has their cognitive abilities. They still have the ability to think and make decisions to a certain extent, but they do need some protection of a guardian and so forth. It especially gives teenagers and minors more of a say in who becomes their guardian, because oftentimes minors end up with guardians who are really bad for them, and they
Right.
don't
Right.
have much of a say, and they're not really listened to.
Right.
So it gives minors a voice now to help to protect them, and does a lot of other wonderful things. In a nutshell,
Yeah,
again, I don't want to get into all
that's
the
the
details.
trend. The trend is to have a more limited, control, so to speak, for lack of a better word, so that there is, as you said, input from the person, the ward, the person that needs support, right, or protection, in quotes. You just got to be mindful of what the individual wants and follow suit on that, as opposed to interposing your opinions. This is what's good for you, without consulting with the person who's being impacted. So, no, that's a very important thing that AARP is doing. So, I hope that there's much progress in that regard. The other thing that we talked about earlier was we wanted to also bring a little levity to this conversation, right? We know that we need support. We know that there is anti-ageism and elder abuse and whatnot. I will share this with you. There's an article that was in the New York Times, their Well section. And there's this author from Sweden by the name of Margareta Magnusson, who she's 86 years old. And she recommends 3 steps to aging exuberantly. And she also was the author of a book called The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning. It was a surprise international bestseller and a call to, as she puts it, not leave a mountain of crap behind for our loved ones to clean up after we die. So she's very practical. And I just love what she says. Okay, just 3 simple things. 1, embrace the stuff that causes you a lot of grief, such as, and she gives an example of paying your bills or taking care of a sick daughter who wants to know what her streaming service passwords and mugs of tea and whatever. Remind yourself that you're glad that you're strong enough to do those things that you don't like doing. That's number 1. Next, surround yourself with young people. Because being around young people, not only do they supply fresh ideas and perspectives, but they also, keeps your brain engaged. So she suggests open your doors, open your refrigerator to have that kind of engagement. Because what sadly I think happens, not only here, but in a variety of locations, we segregate ourselves based upon age, right? Here's a senior citizens, only for seniors. But I think there's a real dynamic when you have that kind of diversity, mixed generation. That's the thing. A blending of generations that I think we've gotten away from, quite honestly. And it's age segregation. And I think you're dealing with it in AARP with regard to the anti-ageism stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then here's the final one. Say yes whenever possible. And I know I have to remind myself of that too. The tendency is to say, no. Do you want to go out? No. It's dark. Right. It's this. It's that. We need to, and by saying no, we are internalizing ageism, right? Mm-hmm. Say yes as often as you can. And so this article ends where she says, you may want to say no to going to dinner, to go to an art show, to buy a leather jacket. I'll say no to buying a mini skirt, but is there something that you can't do or won't do? Give it a try, whatever it is a suggestion. And you never know, you'll go to a party and be the last one to leave because you're having a good time. And that has happened to me and my husband. We went to this concert and I'm like, no. It turned out to be amazing. And we were one of the last to leave in our group. So, and I'm no spring chicken, Troy. I'm pushing 70. Let's put it that way. And my husband's pushing 80. And you wouldn't know it given how, Bruce, how he likes to, engage in stuff. So those three things are important. Be grateful that you can do these things that are tedious. Hang out with people that are not part of your quote unquote age group to avoid, generational segregation, and say yes. Say yes to things that your immediate inclination is to negate. So I'm throwing that out to you. I'll share that article with you, but I do refer to that when I find myself, holding myself back every now and then. What do you think?
Yeah, I love those. I love those 3 points. And that's certainly all part of living a very healthy life and maintaining brain health.
Yeah.
First of all, embracing the stuff that causes grief. Mm-hmm. I refer to that as positive mental attitude, right? Mm-hmm. Always look for, I don't even say the silver lining in the cloud, look for the platinum lining in the clouds, right? Mm-hmm. And always maintain a positive outlook. No matter how difficult the situation may be, just embrace it. I always share with people, I'm a stage 4 cancer survivor, cancer-free for 12 years. And I mean, I'm a living miracle, literally.
Fantastic.
And when I was going through that, I just embraced the cancer. I was like, this is for a reason. And I'm not going to fight it. I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to do my chemotherapy, do what I need to do. And it helped me to survive. When we start lamenting things, we put ourselves in a bad place, right? And our whole body reacts.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And we end up declining.
Yep.
Surrounding yourself with young people, AARP is all about that. And we're always encouraging older people to maintain ties with younger people in general, especially with their children, with their grandchildren, with their great-grandchildren.
Yep.
Always looking for ways to bring families together. Even our movies, the free movies that we put on, we encourage older people to bring the grandchild with them to the movie. The grandchild can come in for free as well. Oh. Use it as a time to, an opportunity to spend some time with your grandchild. We're always putting park benches, but not only here on this island in St. Thomas and St. John, St. Croix, but all over the country, putting park benches that are accessible, right, to people with disabilities, so that older people can go and sit in the park and in the playgrounds with their grandchildren and spend time with them there. Making sure that the walkways are accessible, whether you're in a wheelchair or on a walker, or whether you're on a cane,
right,
or some other kind of body brace, so you could get in there and spend time with your grandchildren. And saying yes whenever possible. Oh, yes. Get involved. Say yes to everything. Be active. Don't stay at home.
Right.
There's no reason to be at home except when you need to eat and go to sleep.
Right.
Other than that, get out in the community, right?
That's right. We have no excuse. Get out in the community. That's right.
Right. Go to the beach. Go to parties. Celebrate life.
Yeah.
All of that is so important and keeps us healthy. I don't know if you've been seeing all the talk on blue zones. Around the world, right?
Yes.
And all of these people, not only they're eating a very healthy diet, but they're so very active physically, and having so much fun, and that's why they're living long. We need to have fun,
Right.
This one older person here in St. Croix contacted me about promoting a bowling competition that was going on here at the bowling alley for senior citizens.
Uh-huh.
And in her message to me, she says, "We seniors just want to have fun."
Yeah.
And I loved that. I was like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
what it's all about, having fun. And that's why we even talk about fun with purpose at AARP.
I like that.
You know, yeah, it's wonderful.
Now, park bench, tell me about that. Is that something that we've done here? I've heard of it as an idea.
Yeah. So along the Christiansted bypass, all
Uh-huh.
of those park benches were
Oh,
as a result of a grant from AARP through the Virgin Island Trail Association.
okay.
So we have those. There are different hiking trails at Windsor Farms, which is over near Salt River.
Mm-hmm.
There are benches there that are accessible. A wonderful fun set of benches that were put in as a result of an AARP grant are in Canigata Ballpark,
Mm-hmm.
under a huge tamarind tree toward the back of the whole facility there. And it's a
Nice.
storytelling circle.
Really?
So yeah, so the main bench has a backrest, so that's where the storyteller would sit.
Uh-huh.
And then benches in a circular format so that the younger people can listen to the griot, to the storyteller.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then on St. Thomas, we gave several benches to, and also in St. John, to sports, parks, and recreation, and they've put them around the islands. Don't ask me exactly where they're located. I couldn't recite the list right now. And so we're always doing that kind of a thing, putting in accessible park benches so that, oh, and also at Botanical Gardens here
Oh,
on St. Croix, St.
okay.
George,
Okay.
St. Joseph Botanical Gardens
Uh-huh.
in the orchid section down in
Yes.
the old sugar factory.
A little birdie told me you like orchids.
Oh, really? Yes, absolutely.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, and so we do that all over the place, and it's really wonderful. We hope to do it in Limerick Park on King Street as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's on the horizon. We're talking about that, and also making those walkways heading into Limerick Park more accessible,
Right.
so older people or disabled people can get inside and enjoy the park.
Excellent.
Yeah,
That's wonderful.
it's all about bringing people together, and
Yeah.
celebrating life.
Well, like you say, the Blue Zone, diet and community. Those were those. I remember those threads. There might have been some other things, but that sense of community. And so you're so smart to be here and be a part of, or I mean, I'm telling you what you already know, but there's something very invigorating about being among, friends and so forth. I have a little story to share with you. My husband and I were thinking, well, okay, let's say, where would we want to go if we needed, quicker access to health care? And we thought we'd go away for a short period of time. Well, it turned out to be not so short, not for longer than a year. But when I came back last year is when it hit me. It's like, where am I going? This is home. This is community. I came back home. I had no water. My car wouldn't start. The electricity was down. I made my calls and everyone came. And I'm like, wow, Amelia.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes. Yes. This is
it.
community. In the States, we're a number or just another face passing by.
Yep.
But here, people come together for each other.
Yep.
They may turn around and give you a hard time later. But when you're really in need, they're going to come to help you, right?
Right, exactly. It's like family, you know what I mean? Very much so. Very much so. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, I've got 3 minutes left, Troy. Tell us. Okay, one thing that I was asked about was something having to do with support for caregivers. Is there such a concept of financial support? Is that a piece that's being advocated for, like maybe a Medicare reimbursement for caregivers? Am I making that up?
Okay. Well, okay. So we advocate for support for caregivers in a variety of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And one way is tax credits.
Mm-hmm.
That's been done on the federal level, the credit for care. And then we have also advocated for more paid time off.
Mm-hmm.
Even here in the Virgin Islands, for government employees, they get more paid time off for caregiving.
Mm-hmm.
And also on an ongoing basis, we try to provide emotional support for caregivers.
Okay.
So we have our Caring for the Caregiver workshops, which are conducted by clinical psychologists here in the territory, Dr. Magdalia Brathwaite. And And it's very, very beneficial. And, a lot of caregivers find it very helpful for them because, being a caregiver, I mean, I was a caregiver for my mother for 11 years. She passed away late last year. I know that it is so terribly saddening. It is so difficult emotionally to see somebody you love declining and to see them going through that dying process.
Right.
And so, we need a lot of help and support to get through all of that.
Right.
So we're always doing a lot of stuff for caregivers. We ask everybody to pay attention to our Facebook page.
Okay.
That's AARP Virgin Islands
Okay.
on Facebook. Also, our website at aarp.org/VI.
Okay.
So again, it's simple to remember, aarp.org/VI. We always have lots and lots of information, especially on Facebook, as to what we're doing and what workshops are coming up. Going back again to guardianship, the guardianship reform bill is scheduled to be heard by the legislature in committee on May 24th.
Okay.
May 24th. So please do call all of your senators, call your favorite senator, call the governor, call everybody and say, vote in favor of this. Tell the governor to approve it when it comes before him. I'm sure it will sail through, but the more voices we have with us, the better.
Wow.
And again, please do contact Pamela Toussaint at ptoussaint@aarp.org. Again, that's PTOUSSAINT@aarp.org. And she can help you to get on our email list, or if you want to actually volunteer, whether it's for community outreach or for advocacy, she can get you signed up.
All right.
And we'd love to have everybody, not only over 50, but under 50 as well. If you're over 18 and you want to get involved, we would love to have you.
Well, thank you. I'm told that the clock on the wall says it's been amazing. We got to do this again, Troy, please. I enjoyed our conversation.
I would love to. Anytime. Love to talk with you.
Thank you so much for listening. Have a great weekend. And thanks again, Troy. Bye-bye.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of WTJX, its board, staff, or underwriters.